Hi, everybody. So today was supposed to be an episode of the court of swords, but instead I wanted to do an RPG thing because I like doing RPG things. Sniper Serpent, hello, and yeah, and I wanted to do something. So I figured we'll do a little Lonely Fun. I don't have any campaigns I need to do prep for. I'm pretty much prepped up for everything. So I wanted to show you off a game that I've been reading and kind of playing with, and we'll look through it and we'll make characters and we'll just kind of talk about it. Hero of Canton, hello, welcome back. The game in question is Zweihander, which is called the Grim and Perilous RPG. And it's essentially it's a game that is heavily inspired by Warhammer Fantasy 2nd Edition, and then just files off all the serial numbers. In some places, the serial numbers are quite filed off. In other places, you could still see them if you squint. Yeah, Zweihander is a bit of a jokey name because two-hander, a Zweihander is a sword. A Warhammer is also a medieval weapon. It is a grim and perilous RPG, and it is huge. Zweihander is also, let me show you. I have a physical copy here. It was sitting on my lap during the pre-show, and I feel like it was crushing me to the floor. So this is the game. This is Zweihander. Look at how thick it is. Look. It's bloody massive. It's huge. So Zweihander, it's like 700 pages long, I think. So we're going to be using the PDF to negotiate this beast. And the reason it's so big, is because it requires you absorb. Actually, it's really simple. It doesn't require anything. It's made up of almost all of the supplemental material that the designers liked from Warhammer Fantasy, and then just smushed it into the one book. So the core book takes all of this stuff from the other sources material that came out for Warhammer 2nd, and then made it into one book, so you don't have to buy a bunch of like It's really interesting how they did that. Also, yeah, you need two hands to wield it. So yeah, so we're gonna take a look through it. We're gonna flip through it a little bit, take a look at some of the art, talk about the game, and then we'll make a character. But I've only seen this kind of game once before. Obviously, it has some stuff in common with the OSR.
You have returned.
Welcome back, Orcs Damon. You're in the right place. I've only seen this kind of thing once before outside the OSR. The OSR, you know, they kind of enshrined Moldvay D&D as their core rules, or AD&D if you're Osric, and then they built up around that. But I've seen this before in a game called Re-Up, which is a Star Wars game, much like this, but without the serial numbers filed off. Useless Ties, welcome back. Star Wars Re-Up is a fan update, it's Star Wars revised, expanded, and updated, and it's an update of the West End game Star Wars that does pretty much the same thing. It's also a huge book. It's like 600 pages, and it's all this material pulled from the various supplements into a fan version of the game that obviously is not available as readily for purchase as something like Zweihander. But Zweihander exists in an interesting place because you cannot copyright game mechanics. So game mechanisms cannot be copywritten. Terms can, right? Like tap and untap are a famous example of that in Magic the Gathering. But turning a card sideways to activate its effects is not copyrightable. Rolling 2d10 as a percentile die and checking underneath a certain number, again, not. So you can literally take the contents of a game and you can repurpose them, which is what Zweihander does. Now let's take a look at what the game says about itself, right? Because as we go through looking at a game, we're not going to read every page. We're going to kind of flip through it, but as we go through a game, we keep in mind that what must be done is understanding the three questions. What is this game about? How is the game about that? And what are the players rewarded for doing? So let's try to kind of figure that out as we flip through the games. Now, what's interesting here is, yeah, the game is a Creative Commons license, so you can as long as you're doing so for non-commercial purposes, as long as you attribute Grim and Perilous Studios, and as long as you license derivatives under the same license, you can make your own stuff for it, which already people are doing. I've seen some folks making Darkest Dungeon hacks of this game. Yeah, and the art is very cool. We're gonna flip through it and we'll take a look. So let's take a quick look at the cover first. This is supposed to be a group of PCs. I don't know what I did that they're looking at me like this, but damn. So it's a pretty typical group of PCs. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what this game is about, except that you play grumpy looking individuals. And that it's set in a grim medieval world, right? The fire in the text, right? The text is on fire, the Zweihander. The fact that it is a grim and perilous RPG, right? That tells us some things. And we can imply that these are not heroes that we are going to be playing in this game. We're going to be crappy, angry, grim and perilous individuals who maybe had our beard chopped off and have a knife in our hat. Now, what's an interesting contrast for this game, I've played Warhammer and I've read through Zweihander. Zweihander does this thing where it's actually pretty tongue-in-cheek. It's pretty funny in a lot of places. So it takes its grim and perilousness not super seriously, which is kind of cool. Well, you'll see that as we go through it. So 663 pages till the last chapter, something like 700 pages total, broken down into an introduction, how to play the game, character creation. Notice that how to play is only 10 pages long. Character creation, which is about 50 pages. Then the professions, which is a massive part of the game. Professions are a big part of advancement and character creation. Skills, another 10, 15 pages. Talents, another 15 pages. Trappings, which is equipment, another 25 pages or so. Combat, 30 pages. It looks to me like the vast majority of the book. Yeah, we get down here and we see the Grimoire is almost 100 pages. The Bestiary, same thing, like well over 100 pages. And then a Bitter Harvest at the end, which is our adventure, which I'm going to talk about setting for this when we get there. But let's take a flip through it. Table of contents includes the author self-insert, which, yep. So, that's a thing. Like egregious author self-insert. You can tell by the anachronistic haircut and glasses. But then we break down the game into all of the individual biz that makes it up. Now, the game is seen through the eyes of a man named Danziger Eckhart, who is a character kind of in the world and introduces the world. Yeah, check it out. Look, it's JP, and then it's me. It's me and JP. We're characters from the game. So yeah, I don't know if you knew this. I'm lying. That's a lie. I'm lying to you. So the character tells us about the world of the game and also serves to introduce the game and brings up 3 points. And these are 3 things that we have to listen to both from the perspective of the designer, right? This is the designer telling us about the game world and the game itself, and from the point of view of the character. So the character is telling us that the game got 3 lessons. You can't earn anything in this world. Right? You can't earn anything this world, right? You can't trust people. You can't earn anything. Just bad shit's going to happen to you. 2, a man will do anything he can to survive. And 3, life is pain and death. Welcome to the game. It's grim as shit. And then we get a little bit of information about the designer's perspective on the game. Daniel Fox tells us a little bit about it, where it came from, some of its kind of early stuff. You'll notice that the game never talks about Warhammer specifically, so as to deflect. There is this layer of politeness that one takes sometimes when one is ripping off someone else's work. They never quite mention it. This game reminds me a lot of DCC in a lot of ways in the tone. It's a little less weird than DCC and a little more goth. But yeah, you'll see as we go. So here's another piece of art, full page piece of art opening the chapter. Adventuring party that look like they are on the run from something. We're starting to see some diversity in terms of race, right? We got an elf down here. We got a halfling. You can tell because she has no shoes. And then we have some other adventurers. There's a bunch of bones. I guess they're probably on their way away from an adventure. They're like, yay, we're coming home. So the game introduction just talks about its tone. It tells you straight up from the beginning that it's not a dungeon crawl game, right? It says you can't really use this game to do dungeon crawl stuff. It's just not built for that. It's about fantasy adventure, but it's about common peasant rabble becoming embroiled in dark things. Now, the game lays out roles for the player and the GM, and then it hits us with the golden rule. So here we are, page 13. I was ready to hate this game. I was ready to be like, nope, fuck this game. Golden rule, not into it. But this is the best presentation of the golden rule I've ever seen. This talks about how the golden rule isn't just about ignoring the rules, right? So one rule is held above all others at the table. Have a good time. This means the GM and players should never let the rules prevent the story from moving forward. If a rule gets in the way, now normally a game like Vampire would say ignore it. But in this case, it says if a rule gets in the way, change it with your group. Work with your GM to change it by turning it into a house rule, personalizing it for your group's preferred style of play. Thank you. Like, this is the best golden rule because it says just redesign the part you don't like. And that's so good. If you've forgotten a specific rule, ignore it, look it up later, don't stop the game, but design together. And then down here, if I move slightly out of the way, you can read, there's the block about gender neutrality. Instead of saying something like, we use he for everyone, just assume that we mean gender neutral. It specifically says we use the singular they for indeterminate gender. However, our play examples will reference the gendered pronoun appropriate to the gender of the player or their character. Good work. So you're going to see this in a lot of places in this book. It feels like a throwback to Warhammer, but has a modern sensibility that makes it feel like a lot more fun and a lot more like in the modern milieu, which is super cool. So there's a lot of this art in role-playing games, right, where you see players and their characters. Their characters are having a great time. Like, this guy is throwing a book in that guy's face. This guy's getting chopped in the chest. Guy getting kicked in the junk. It's going great for them. They're having a fun old time up here. And and it's going real good. Get out of here, Slack. I don't need you. Boop. So yeah, there's chapter 2. So this is how to play. The game is based on a skill and attribute percentile system. So, what's up, Rabbit? Welcome back. Skill and attribute percentile system. So you're gonna have an attribute that's between 0 and it'll be between 0 and 100. I think 99 might be the max. And then you add, for every rank you have, you add additional percentile to your roll. You're gonna roll 2d10. If you get your number or lower, you succeed. If you get higher, you fail. And if you double up, if you get like a 1-1 or a 2-2 or a 3-3, it's a crit, fail, or a crit success, depending on if you already failed or not. So there's a few little modifiers there. So we're not going to go through all the exact rules, but that's the core mechanism of the game. This game's version of advantage or disadvantage is flipping the results to succeed or fail. So if you get a 54, you can make it a 45. If you have to, if you get a 69, you could flip it to get a 96, etc. So that's this game's version of those mechanisms. And then we have Fury and Chaos dice, which are D6s that'll get rolled throughout the game, and then a fortune pool. So you get points that you can spend to re-roll to get a better result, spend a point to get another action in combat, or immediately roll another Chaos or Fury die, or immediately turn your Chaos or Fury die to a 6. Ben, welcome. All right, classes. Classes. So take note, if you will, the percentage of class art that depicts women and men. Look at the balance in the art depiction. I was really impressed by this. So we're going to talk about character creation. It walks through the themes of the game. So it tells you this is the kind of theming that your game probably will have. Dire circumstances, retribution and violence are hallmarks of your life. Ethnic identity binds communities together and build barriers between them. So ethnic identity is important to this game. Superstition is the foundation of faith. Religious ceremony dominates every facet of society. Medicine is esoteric. Sorcery is reviled. Ancient monsters and festering mutants doubtless exist on the periphery of civilization, and capricious and sinister forces vie for agency over the world's people from the abyss. Grim and perilous role-playing is not a story about people who change the world. It's a story about the world that changes people. So you're not going to be the all singing, all dancing crap of the universe. You're going to be scum. And then we're going to work up from there. I want to stop real quick on our way through character creation. We'll come back and do all this step by step. But determining your character's sex is random. You randomly roll basically everything about your character. So you determine your character's sex. Zweihander makes no basic intellectual, physical, or spiritual distinction between females and males of any race. The same goes for transgender characters, regardless of their gender identification. Any social inequalities in the campaign world should be addressed directly with your GM. So the GM, this is great. It explicitly calls out transgender characters are a thing in the game, right? By addressing that they exist. You can play them. And then have a conversation with your GM about what being transgender in the campaign world might be like. And note, this is the player who is playing a transgender character should address with the GM to say, these are my ideas about this. What are yours? It doesn't say, ask your GM about these things. It lets you kind of call that out, which I think is super cool. So there's that. By default, you have to ask permission from your GM to be something other than a human, which is neat. And then it gives us some examples. So here's some pictures of humans. Here's some dwarves. I like this one with the candles on his head. We got some hideous gnomes. This is what gnomes look like in my head. That's gnomes to me. Look at them. Terrifying. Some halflings. Notice too that these characters they run the gamut of internal cultures as well. They're not all inspired by the same culture. It's not like all halflings are from the East, right? Like it shows they are ethnically diverse within their character types. So that's cool. You can be an ogre if your GM lets you. You could be an elf. Look at these elves. You could be a human, right? And then you determine archetype. Now, the game's classes, I was going to say, academics are not a race. So the game's classes are broken down into archetypes, and then archetypes are broken into professions. So the archetypes are academic, commoner, knave, ranger, socialite, and warrior. So you roll randomly for that, too. So you could be an academic, including this gothy teenager. You could be a commoner, including this rat-catching motherfucker. You could be a knave, which looks awesome because you get 2 guns, or you are a beggar. You could be a ranger. Ranger. A socialite. Every time you go to the party, there's always one of these guys. You're out socializing. Or you could be a warrior. I really like this girl's face. It's super cool. All right, so then we determine dooming and background and other character creation stuff, all the little details, hair and eye color, upbringing, etc. We'll talk about all that when we make those characters. And now we can talk about professions. So each section is broken down into... professions, a bunch of other ones. So... this guy, definitely not a Warhammer character. He's certainly not a Warhammer character. Don't worry about him. I like the little smirking elf. I think this is the elf from before. There's a nerdier version of Crusher. And then there's this guy who I guess is signing up bold adventurers. All right, so there are professions. There's regular basic professions, which you'll start at, and then intermediate professions you have to get into by taking advances. Let's look at for the professions. Again, all of us we randomly rolled. You could be an adherent, which is like a kind of nun, I guess. You could be an anarchist, which is a stand on a box and shout kind of person. You got some pamphlets, +1 pamphlets. You could be an anchorite, which means you're a guy with a turban who sits on a sharp thing. You could be an animal tamer. Get yourself a little bear. You could be an antiquarian, which is a sneering nerd, I guess. Or an apothecary. You could be an artisan. An astrologer. Get that little astrolabe. You could be a bailiff. Or a barber surgeon. Look at that nasty boy.
You have returned.
What's up, Exeter Midnight? Welcome back. You could be a beggar or a berserker. What's great is that this game does not give a flying fuck about balancing them. Like if you roll and you're like, oh man, I'm a beggar. What class did you get? And then Dave next to you is like, yeah, I'm a berserker. I rolled berserker. And you're like, oh, but Also note, I don't know if you can see this. The berserker is chewing on his shield. He's just so hyped for fight. You could be a boatman. You could be a bone picker. You could be a bounty hunter. We got Bravo. Look at this guy with his sword and his gun. You could be a buccaneer. This was the class I rolled last time. You could be a burglar. You could be a camp follower. You could be a charlatan. Lord Fauntleroy Poofy Hair. A cheapjack, a coachman, a courtier, a cultist with a very ineffective hat. Yeah, this is alphabetical. There are a lot. A diabolist, a doomsayer, a dragoon, an engineer, an entertainer, a footpad, an envoy, a fop. I love that you could be a fop or you could be, where's the other guy? A charlatan. Fop or a charlatan, whichever. You could be a gambler or a gamekeeper. You could be a grave robber or a gutter snipe. Look at this little cutie. Hedge knight, hedge wise. I love this dude's mustache. So 70s. A highwayman. What do we miss here? An informer. You could be an informer named Snow. You could be an investigator. A jailer. A jester. Now, take a look at this jester and tell me who that is. There's got to be somebody in this who recognizes that jester from somewhere. Yes. I think that jester is supposed to be Kefka. I think it's supposed to be Kefka. Or Beetlejuice. But yeah, I think it's supposed to be Kefka. We got a laborer. Take another look. Yeah, that was what jumped to mind when I saw it. Cool looking though for a jester. A laborer, a man at arms. Look at that badass. Crush your head. Or a militiaman, right? one result away. You could be this guy, or this guy. You could be a monk. You could be an old believer, an outrider, a peasant, a pilgrim with your pointy triangle.
Welcome to the Math Squad.
What's up, Zombie Legion? I'm just naming all the classes in this game. Pit fighter, preacher, who might also be kingpin. You could be a prostitute. Look at these sexy prostitutes.
You have returned.
Ozzy, welcome back. These prostitutes, they don't worship Triangulus. Look at this guy's... You get a guy with a +1 bulge. You could be a provocateur. Bunnywise, welcome back. You could be a pugilist. So whoever was in chat earlier saying, like, can you be a monk or like a punch fighter? Here's your punch fighter.
Illustrious champion returns. Welcome home.
Welcome back, King Oberon. You could be a racketeer. God, I would not get on the wrong side of her. Look at bloody knuckles. A racketeer or a raconteur. Racketeer, raconteur. Racketeer, raconteur. Rake, rat catcher. The Ratcatcher is a classic. The Ratcatcher is like it has to exist in Warhammer because there's his small but vicious dog. So there's Reeve. You could be a Reeve, which is like the Judge Dredd of the setting. And what's great about these, I want to just point out, is that a lot of these, they all have a special ability, right? So Ratcatcher has Gutter Speak. The Reeve has an ability called I Am the Law. And almost all of these, if they're not something simple, are a reference that help you understand the class, right? That's where the game has that's the first place we see the game has its tongue firmly in its cheek, right? I am the law. Oh, he's Judge Dredd. We have a scribe. Look at this handsome fellow. Poor guy. All right. And then we also have a sellsword. We have a servant. We have a slayer. Fucking slayer. And what's great is it's the GM's job to make all of these work together. So you make characters as a group, and then the GM has to be like, why is there a slayer, a servant, and a sellsword partying up with a smuggler? Also, take a look at that smuggler for a second. If it doesn't immediately jump to mind who she's supposed to be, look at the name of her ability. Hans shot first. She's flying solo. So that's the humor in the game, right? Is these little jokes about that stuff. So Hans shot first. We got a squire. We got a trapper. Look at this grimdark motherfucker. A vagabond. A valet. The valet's ability is awesome too. Look at the name of it. Alfred Pfennigwerth. Do you get it? Because of German. It's so funny. Oh yeah, the other guy's name is ability is it's a trap because he's spotting hidden traps because he's a trapper. And then you can be a vigilante. So what would be great is having a valet and a vigilante in the same group. Yep. So they have an alter ego and they're basically Batman. And then you can be a watchman. And that's it. So that's it for the starting. That's it for the starting professions. But then later you can take advancements to become other classes. So like once you've dicked around as your lower level class, if you've been a vigilante a while, you could advance to something else. And to do so, you need to take certain ranks in things. Like to be an archmage, you have to have 2 ranks in incantation to get this expert profession, and you have to have arcane magic. Finally, you must sacrifice a fate point. So these all give you the opportunity to jump into the class. So let's talk about the expert professions. These are badasses. These are like level 1 D&D adventurers. So archmage, assassin, right? These are the things that you're like, oh, I'm going to be a badass. You have to work for them. So archmage, assassin, augur, badlander. Badlander's pretty cool. Barrister, which I think is supposed to look like a mustachioed version of what's his name? Littlefinger. That's the vibe I get from here. Mustache Littlefinger. A black magister. She will fuck you up. Dangerous. Bloodmonger. I don't know what she's about, but she seems cool to me. Chattel slaver. Crime boss. Who, again, the face makes me think this is a portrait of someone. You'll see one soon that's pretty funny. So, crime boss. Dark disciple. What's up, Anton LaVey? A demagogue. Okay, here you go. Look at the art of the demagogue. Look at his tiny hands. Yep. So demagogue, you could be a drowned one. You could be a druid. Look at this art for the druid. Look at this guy. So good. A duelist, right? Badass lady duelist. A dungeoneer, who I think is supposed to be the tilting at windmills guy. Also, look at his ability. Oh yeah, hot. You want to see the hot druid again?
Our illustrious champion returns. Welcome home.
Yeah, Quixote. He's Don Quixote, right? He's basically just a dude who lugs too much shit around, and his ability is called Gygaxian Naturalism, which is pretty funny. They talk about like a Saint Gygax or a Sage Gygax a few times. Yeah, here we go. Those who lived the tale to tale are celebrated in fantastic stories, such as the famous Uncle Gygax and Arneson the Forgotten. Elementalist. Executioner. Look at this guy. He's just like, what's up? I'm here for work. Who's this fellow? Indiana was the dog's name. Indiana was the dog's name. We got a funerary mage. We got a godsworn. Look at this. It's basically a priest of Sigmar, but it's a woman. And it just like, God, I love how much like flipping the Warhammer stuff, especially the art, on its ear. Yeah. Explosive Logorrhea points out for the Executioner, shirtless guy, not ripped, but not like disgustingly corpulent. Like that's just a person's body. It's really cool. I like it. So there's a Godsworn, the Grail Knight, the Grey Gilder. She's cool. Look at her. The Guildmaster. The Guildmaster, he you know, he used to be a famous actor, but he's fallen from grace. The Hermetic. Oops. The Hierophant. Look at that guy. Yeah, Stygian priest looking motherfucker. The High Lector. See, so you see a lot of these are magical classes. The Illusionist. Look at her, she's got goat legs. I mean, they're illusions, but, you know, goat legs. Yes, here she is. Oof. This hits you right in the Warhammer. Just bang, right on. So there's the Inquisitor. So if you want to be a witch hunter, you have to possess 2 ranks in Resolve in order to enter the profession. So all you have to do is build up your Resolve and then become an Inquisitor. Inquisitors are always under the effect of the generalist petty magic called Witch Sight. They can see magic all the time. And then their drawback is religious zealotry, which means they immediately have to change their alignment. You have 2 alignments. You have an order and a chaos alignment. You have to change yours as soon as you become an Inquisitor. There's an Iron Abbot.
Illustrious champion returns.
A Merchant Lord.
Welcome home.
What's up, Aitsu? Happy anniversary. A Military Officer. Oh, look at that haircut. God, she's so cool and goth. This guy, Tim the Necromancer. See, the Necromancer knows how to clutch imaginary hateful grapefruits. This guy knows what's up with the grapefruits. Ah, fucking grapefruits. This guy knows what's up. I am a wizard. And his ability is wise from your grave. Some call him Tim. Tag yourself. I'm the Necromancer. Pistolier. Plague Doctor. Awesome. Look, he's got a severed arm with a scary tentacle on one end. Pledged Guard. Pyromancer. A little bit more of that hot Warhammer for you. Revered Mother. Rune Thane. Buff boy. Scholar. Shaman. Now what I love about the shaman, and this is a thing you're gonna see throughout this. There are certain character types, like the druid or the shaman, where they make a point of making them look not only different from the other character types, but different from the prevailing culture the other character types belong to. So like you can be a shaman of any kind, but this immediately illustrates this is a different kind of spellcaster. Yeah, it's Commander Holly. What's up, Strix? Get a bird on your head. Cool, huh? Yeah. Soothsayer. A truthsayer. Soothsayer and truthsayer. Sooth, truth. Sooth, truth. And then a veteran, or a war dervish, or a warlock. See, this guy also knows about the grapefruits. This guy knows what's up. You could be a white wolf. Look at her. Look at her fucking wolf cloak. So what I love here is that they've taken what almost universally would be a man in Warhammer and flipped the gender to give you a woman in that role. To be like, oh yeah, like a huge buff, like wolf berserker. It's a lady. So cool. Prayers of the Winter King, Ulfskin. So those are our classes, and you can see a lot of art. A lot of art in the book, a lot of like really interesting kind of variation in the art, and character creation and advancement take up quite a bit of the book. So I'm going to flip quickly through the rest of it. We go through the skills chapter, which lays out what all the different skills are and what they're attached to. The next chapter shows some adventures. I believe this is the trappings. Oh, this is the talents chapter. So you get some special talents like this guy's weird face or this thin lady. Everyone in this game is like a weirdo. That's the idea. You do not play... There are no normal people in this world. Like, even the good characters are weirdly good. It's highly polarized. So yeah, talents, such as UFC man-hugging, reading off of walls, and then trappings. So here's all the equipment. It talks about the currency of the game, talks about wages. This is a pretty standard chapter for most RPGs. It gives us descriptions of all the weapons, such as the fire-hardened spear or the mortuary sword. There's the Zweihander right there. So I love games that show drawings of all this stuff. You can have guns in this game, like a blunderbuss or a 3-barreled pistol, but God help you if you think you're going to get one of those at first level. Shows all the armor, takes you for a walk through things. You can get a bolt thrower, I guess, if you want to. Talks about siege weapons. Nothing really unusual here. Nothing jumped out at me on my read through. I'm guessing this is the combat chapter. You can see that there are some monsters. Definitely not Skaven. Some other kind of legally distinct rat men are fighting these adventurers. Cordell, welcome to the squad. Thank you. So we're going to learn about combat terminology. I haven't really delved into combat too much because I haven't had context for it yet. But maybe that could be another thing. Maybe somebody else and we can make a party and do a little like one-off how does combat work in this game stream. So yeah, just more art of characters in combat. Combat is meant to be exciting and brutal. I think, based on my read, I think that this is a game in which it's easy to be fucked up and maimed, but not that easy to die. I think that's the vibe. So the opposite, and usually paired up with combat, is healing. Look, it's me. I'm not feeling so good. So here's healing, here's disease, here's what happens if your arm turns into a tentacle and a plague doctor chops it off for you with a saw. Some sicknesses you can get, like Orcs molt or Grey Plague. Disorders, having a vulture bite you to death. Getting intoxicated, because, of course, in a world that is shitty, you probably want to get, fucked up. Many characters begin a game with a use or two of laudanum. Laudanum. It's great. So yeah, this is all the healing shit and the alchemy stuff. Now, welcome to the magic chapter. So just like in Warhammer, magic is broken up into this Sephiroth style colored winds. So each school of magic is called by its color and the wind of magic. So the Grimoire talks about the etheric winds, the inner workings of magic. There are 2 mutually exclusive ways to get at magic, divine and arcane, pretty standard fantasy shit. The arcane magics are broken up into the arcana of animism, which is known as Gevura, the brown wind. I'm not going to make the joke, but if you'd like to, you just go ahead. The Arcana of Astromancy, which is Binna, the blue wind. The Arcana of Elementalism by Chesed, the green wind. The Arcana of Luminance, Keter, the white winds. What's up, Keters? The Arcana of Morticism, Tiferet, the purple winds. The Arcana of Necromancy, Yesod, the onyx wind. The Arcana of Pyromancy, which is Hod, the red wind. The Arcana of Shadowmancy, Netzach, the gray winds. Arcana of Sorcery, also Yesod, the onyx winds. So sorcery and necromancy are two formed together. Transmutation, Chokmah, the yellow wind. And then there are winds intertwined. Malkuth, the void. Dot, the silver wind. So instead of just being like, yo, it's magic, here's some boring magic shit, it's like very, very colored by the setting, which is super cool. I really like that. And then there are gods. Let's get to know our divine gods. If you're looking for somebody to worship, boy, do we have gods for you. Spike Ma, welcome back. Welcome to Choose Your God. Would you like to worship the Crouching One, god of assassination, blood, and cruelty, who's been worshipped for 1,000 years? His symbol is a knife, stabbed through the heart. He's one of the hero gods for the elves, though open worship is rare. I think he's supposed to be Kayla Menchikane, but I'm not totally sure. So that's the Crouching One, murderous bloodmongers. If you don't like him, let me tell you about another god. His name is the Custodian. His symbol looks like someone drew some Iron Maiden fan art in their school chemistry textbook. The Custodian, she bears a grim visage and is Lord of Death, Dreams, in the afterlife. So she's pretty cool. But if you don't like her, there's always the Demiurge, dualistic god of nature, animals, earth, and fertility, parent of the Leviathan. When it all comes down to it, however, we all know the right and proper god is the Emperor. Ve Victus QED, welcome. Welcome! Join me in worship of the mighty God Emperor, a child born of virginal birth, heralded below a blazing winter star. 3 seers witnessed the birth, prophesying the boy would save humanity. The blessed child grew from being a mere carpenter to become a strong and charismatic champion of order, who united dozens of warring regions into a cohesive emperor. Jesus, is that you? Savari Langari, welcome to the squad. Hey, Malcontender. So you can worship Jesus if you want to. Fantasy Jesus. And then the Learner. The Learner, an obscure deity that is becoming more relevant as people stop being so stupid. The Leviathan, goddess of sea and storm. This is Arcturus's god, I think. The Martyr, god of disease and poison. Also Lady of Healing, Mercy, and Childbirth. Children are a form of poison. Let's be real. The Night Father. Der Nachtvader. So he's a thief god. The Steward, god of people named Stuart. The Winter King, known also as Robb Stark. So you'll notice a lot of these are attached directly to advanced professions. Night Daddy. So those are all the like regular type gods. We don't talk about the other god. We'll get to the chaos gods later. And then it talks some more about library of spells, and then it's going to rip through all the spells in the game, like black metal sword conjuring. Some of these are basic like D&D spells, but they feel a lot more like 2nd edition D&D spells in that you can do, a lot of them are just like weird shit can happen. Rather than just like you deal 10d12 damage. So conjuring frost, making people fat. That's legit like a thing. Fattening people up. They don't have to eat or drink, but they get chubby.
Returned.
All of this stuff kind of like helps fill in the game world, and they're all broken up by school, by the winds of magic that we talked about. Noob Ninja and Zork, welcome back. Thank you. So lots of fun stuff. I'm not going to read all of them, but you know, they do the fun things you would hope that they would do. If you take Shadowmancy, you can fool people, you can take on the countenance of death, you can conjure eternal darkness, you can wipe people's minds, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. So, you know, some spells. Let's jump on ahead. Each god has their own spells. It's all very specific, so they don't make wizards just feel like wizards. Here is an important magic item in Zweihander. It's called Witchstone, legally distinct from Warpstone. Totally legally distinct item called Witchstone. Yeah, also really great, like late 60s psychedelic heavy metal band. Yeah, legally distinct large rodent people. And so there's some stuff you can do with it, like eat it. Rituals for summoning the dead and binding demonic servants. You know, the kind of magic that flavors what the game's magical stuff is about, right? This is how you make the game feel like it has flavor. A wizard in D&D has no flavor because the magic, any wizard or sorcerer or whatever can do it. It's not flavored accordingly. What I like about this, and this is another thing that reminds me of DCC, is each spell caster is very, very different. Look, it's the grim future of Miro. Look, Miro, you look so handsome now with your pointy ears and your tentacled mass. So there's a Game Master chapter. The Game Master's chapter talks about what the game's themes are and how to use the mechanisms to create them. Page 357 has a beautiful giant chaos crab with a tower on his back. I don't know what this is about, but there you go. I actually really like the Game Mastery chapter. It gives a lot of concrete, specific advice about how to run this game. Not just like general stuff, but like use these rules to create this kind of thing. Yeah, pretty metal. I like his little weird, goofy, kind of human arms dangling from the front of his face. So low magic, low fantasy, talks about the influence of chaos, how to make that work in your game. Here are the principles of the game, and I'm pretty sure this is a portrait of a person, I feel like this is like Ed Greenwood or something. So your role as the game master in this game is be comfortable and familiar with the rules. Understand how to make mechanisms in the game into the narrative. Fantastic, right? So it calls the game out as being mechanics first, but it tells the GM it's your job to convert it, right? Turn mechanics into narrative, convey the themes and tone of the game, craft the story and set the stage for the adventurers, understand the plot points behind the scenes, remain flexible when players chase down spurious leads, be creative and willing to alter the course of the story. I like that. This is interesting. You must maintain an immersive atmosphere. So part of your job as the game master is to make the game feel like the game world. And I guess not crack jokes and not like kind of break that up. I'm interested to see what that talks about because immersion to me is like, I don't know, it's a hard thing to chase. Play both the enemies and friends of the character, interpret the difficulty and ease of skill use, act as referee, and be prepared before the game ends. So that's your responsibilities as the game master. Kind of like principles in a PBTA game, yeah. Welcome back, Grog Monster. 31 months. Awesome. So, the 3 golden rules. Change the rules that don't work. Focus on the characters. When in doubt, say yes. And then it qualifies how to say yes, what to do to focus on those, and that kind of thing. They're basically your 3 main things you should do regardless of all the other rules. I really like the way that they talk through them, the way that they express them. The game does this a lot where it tells me one thing and I'm like, oh, I've heard this 100 times. And then reading it, I learn a little bit more. So it talks about all the different shit that you need to do, how to interpret the rules of the game, special combat rules that only the GM needs to know. You know, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these things. What to do if your player gets hit in the eye with an arrow. Yada, yada, yada. overland, wilderness travel, terrain, threat level. What is everybody doing in the party? If you've been watching the Kingmaker streams, doing a travel, and again, this seems very familiar. I'm not going to say, necessarily where this came from because I don't know, but we had an idea that was similar. Select a guide, a survivalist, and a scout, and have everybody roll for the duration of their trip. And then take a journey. So specific rules for that. Now, in the game, experience is tailored specifically to the adventure. There is no generic reward in the game, as far as I can tell, right? So your job as the GM is to figure out what the characters are doing that they should be rewarded for. So, for example, in the adventure in here, good role playing, like taking part as characters in the wedding, gives you 20 resource or reward points. Impressing Maximilian or Franz, 10 resource points. Successfully calming the men down, 10 resource points. So it's interesting because the players, it seems to me, the idea here is that you are supposed to just really engage heavily with what's going on at the table. And by playing into it, by not taking a step back and kind of ignoring it and just playing the mechanisms, it's quite video game-like, but awarding good role-playing for taking part in the competition instead of just being like, nah, my character doesn't do this. My character doesn't participate. It's interesting, and it teaches the GM how to create those reward structures for their game. And we'll take a look at the adventure at the end and see what it actually rewards you for. You can also get reputation points for your characters. So you can have your relationship to a group or to a civilization or to a country or town. Bunch of miscellaneous rules for traps and what have you. Divine punishment for critical fails on rolls. How to make non-player characters. This is cool. This is Zweihander's version of the Duel of Wits. When a character seeks to either convince another of a significant falsehood, persuade another party to capitulate to demands, or plant their own agenda in the mind of another with profound effect, you will engage in a mechanic called social intrigue. Yeah. So, determine complexity. Is it a simple exchange or a complex exchange? Resolve simple exchanges. Deal with alignment. Deal with social class. Make a bunch of rolls back and forth. Who's participating? What's at stake? Choose a social tactic. All right, this round, I'm going to bargain. Then I'm going to intimidate. Then I'm going to plant a rumor. It's crazy. So, yeah. Duel of Wits. So that's a thing in this game. So you can change how people feel. You role play the exchange. You roll. You resolve the rolls, and then you figure out if you won or not. Like it's crazy. It's really cool. I love that it's in here. So wouldn't be a Warhammer style game without stress, fear, and terror, corruption, the bad kind. Talking about fate points, turning you into a goat man, characters getting addicted to things, becoming insane, mutating, getting phobias, etc., etc. The taint of chaos and improvement. This is like kind of a boring pose, but I really, really like this art. This is a guy who, if I was 14, I would look at this book and I would be like, yeah, I want to be that guy. He's got an axe and a sword and a cloak, and it's ripped, and look at how grim he looks. Ooh, look at this guy. This appeals to my inner 14-year-old. And now we talk about chaos characters. So if you really want to, there are 4 monstrous races. So if you want a cathartic campaign where you just rampage around and burn down villages and shit, this is how it happens. Wasp Floss, hello. Welcome. Here we go. So if you want to be a member of the Slaves to Chaos, you could play an Aztlan, a Grendel, a member of the Orcs with an X, or the Skurzak. Can you guess, before I go on, can you guess what the Aztlan, Grendel, Orcs, and Skurzak are? I bet you can. I bet you can. Yep. So, the Aztlan, yes, they are indeed lizard men. They are frog people. We'll see more of them in the monster chapter. The Grendel are mutants. They're beast men. The Orcs are... I mean, they're orcs. If you're an orc, you could gain the ability, look what I can do. Or the Skurzak, which are the Skaven, who might have an ability called Doerden Syndrome. Unlike your shadowy brethren, you have elected to live among the surface dwellers. Considered a dishonorable traitor by the Cabal, you're not accepted by people above either. As an edgy, gritty anti-hero, your name may have inspired a number of false tales in testament to your greatness as a warrior, much to the chagrin of better qualified swordsmen. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So, Zweihander has no specific setting. So this chapter tells you how to make your own setting and what is true about Zweihander no matter what. Zweihander is humanocentric. It teaches you some ways how to get around that if you want to include non-humans in your game. It talks about rulership and the different kinds there are. And then it talks about demons. So demons, the game does not allow you to take a demon as a patron yet. There'll be a supplement for that. But the demons include the Ancient Ones, which the Aztlan worship, the Black Lodge, which I think is I'm almost certain that this is a Twin Peaks reference, but yes, the elves that worship the Black Lodge, the Gilded Pharaoh. So if you want to be like a tomb king, the 13, who the Skurzak worship, the Tusked One of the Orcs, or the Witch Queen of the Dark Elves. Now let's talk about the Abyssal Princes of Chaos. Get out your files. We got some serial numbers to take off. The Prince of Change, the Prince of Decay, the Prince of Pleasure, or the Prince of Violence. Bones for the Bone Chair, fluids for the Fluid God. And then the Outsider, which is a callback to, there was another Chaos God in Warhammer Fantasy 1st edition. Bloody Triangulus. So, yeah, and then it talks about the cosmology of the game, some campaign seeds, and this is cool. So these campaign seeds are like mini settings. So here's what the game suggests that you play in. You could play it during the 30 Years' War in 1630 Europe. You could set it within the Holy Roman Empire. You could set your game in Gothmoran, the great continent where the 5 houses fight for battle over the priest emperor. You could set it in Cahabro, the City of Lights. So you could be like a gang in the city of Cahabro. The Lost Colony of Roanoke, 1619, colony in the Americas. I love that it mixes and matches historical stuff, real historical stuff, with like made up fantasy shit too. If I played this, I would totally set this game in 1770s Boston. I think that would be super fun. I think that'd be a really fun like setting, kind of like early American Revolution. Like, yeah, pretty cool. You done looking at this demon's junk? Let's move on. Time for monsters. Monster time. Okay, so monsters in this game are exciting creatures like Fomorians. Look at this frog monster. A Fomori Huskarl, who's like a lobster boy. A Fomori Thrall, like a slightly rounded fishapod. This eyeball. An arch Cenobite. Fucking edgelord of edgelords. Distracted elf's true form. The arch Cenobite. The brass Primarch. This chill brother. A greater devourer. A light eater. I mean, these are all just the major demons, right? And it's a fucking whatever they're called. Pit lords and stuff. Or a Numina. I don't know what this is, but get the fuck away from me. No, thank you. Just back off. Back the fuck up. Nope. I don't want it. Bloodthirster. That was the horrific monster I was thinking of. Look at this little guy. Butler demon. Carnal demon. Look how sexy she is. Don't you want to just smooch up on that thing? Just get in there. Just get up on there. Filth demon. Legion demon. Sorrow demon. Oh, he's so sad. I'm sad because I used to have 2 axes and I only have 1. We got a Bargus. We got a Lemurian host. I think that's cool. Look at that. He's so neato. A nightmare, which is silly pun. It's a horse. Pit dragon. Protoplasmic dolor. And then some critters like a Komodo dragon or this horse. Small creatures like insects or snakes. This baby goat looking thing or a ferret. All right, so primevals. So these are like monsters. Huge Shelob type monster. Big ass pig. Death bats. Death bats, kids. Dire rats. Look at this little guy on this bat. Look. That's a rat. A howl bear. This howl bear wants to party. Yo, I'm owl bear. Yep, wants to party. Silverback warg. We got basilisk. This is a cool monster. I love this artist is so great. Like it's just such a good pick. Bog behemoths. We got chimera. We got cockatrice. You got claw your face off. Dragon turtle. Fenworm. Whatever these are in Warhammer that I can't remember now. Griffins, harpies, hydras. This guy's awesome. Is Jabberwock. He also understands the anger of the grapefruit. They're squigs. Yeah, right. Legally distinct from a squig. You got it. I really like the Jabberwock quite a lot. Titty fish. Just big old boob titty fish. It's fair. It's okay because they're not for biology. They're there to lure in humans to kill and eat them. So she's allowed. Makes biological sense, but not in the way you expect. Wyverns. And then humanoids. So here's where we get to see... Oh, I'm not doing so good. Oh, shit. Look at... I was fine before and I got a tentacle for an arm? Damn. All right. So a Gakota, which is a kind of giant lizard man. Or an Iguania, which is a less large lizard man. Look how cute he is. Look at that boy. Lacertilia. Look at him. So good. Little skink boy. Tlaylock. And then some chaos guys. Dread Count Goat Legs. I love this dwarf. Dvergar. Corrupted by the Witchstone shards. Fell Knight. Havoc Conjurer. Angry Man and his friends. Nephilim. Big ass giants. Siabra, Dragon Men. Brigands. Zealots. This is what Grigori looks like on his days off. He's so mad. Karl Marx, what happened to you? Sad soldier guy. boob lady, ogre mercenary, thug, peasants. Ooh, rebellious peasants. You gotta fight them. Templar fanatic. I love his little face. Urgh. Witch. I'm sorry, it's spelled VVITCH, okay? Zoatar, which is some kind of gorilla lion man. And now we take a trip to the Undertown where the legally distinct from Skaven are. Ooh, bog thing. Different from a swamp thing. Comes from a bog, not from a swamp. Death's Hedge. Ditoten Hedge. Orcs Spore. Shimmering Mimic. Blech. Dragonborn Ogre. It's cool. It's fine. And then goblins. Little gobbos. A hobgoblin. A kobold. Which is, I guess, a form of goblin in this. A kobold fanatic. They kind of look like red caps. And then some beastmen. Grendel. We got the Brew. We got the Equigorn. We got the Hircus. The Taurus. The Woes. Lycanthropes. There's like so many monsters. Medusa. You see why the book is like 700 fucking pages long. Boogans, which are a small form of orc. It's a smaller type of orc. High orcs. Low orcs. Rude boys. They really like ska. It's like their favorite kind of. Yep. Ravenous ghoul, who looks. Look at her. She's got her fork there. So this is a noble that has become a cannibal. And now some Skurzak, like the bilious Skurzak. Or the brood mother. Damn, girl. Choleric Skurzak. Phlegmatic Skurzak. I like how they use the humors to separate the Skurzak. That's cool. Sanguine Skurzak. Tyrant Skurzak. These are the rat ogres, right? And then Warren Runners. Look at the troll. Look at him. Pay ye troll. They have an ability called Stomp the Yard. And then etheric spirits, like air sylphs, earthen gnomes. That is a fucked up monster. Fire salamanders, water undines, defilers. This is the Tomb King. Yeah. Dullahan. Face Dancer. What's up, Game of Thrones? How you doing? Red Cap. Oh, there is a separate monster for it. Ooh, what's up, She-Lord? Boy, you got them goat legs I like. Them shadow horns. Nice sword. It's like Elric got turned into a horseman. Talking tree. Nymph. Don't look, kids. Don't look. You go blind. Gollum. Living statue. Badass Anubis. And then Zambos, like a Skeletor or a Draugr. Oh, it's Alan Moore. Hi, Alan. Watchman's great. Reanimated corpse. Tenebrae. Apparitions. You got all the monsters you could ever need in your life. Phantoms. Revenants. Wailing women. That's a fucking awesome banshee. Holy shit. Fuck, that's cool. She's got share hair, too. Lamashtu. Just eat a baby. Don't worry about it. Oh, these are types of vampires. Lamashtu. Nosferatu. This hot-ass vampire, man. Look at him. Pull up your pants, you hot-ass vampire. Rakshasa with his backwards hands and his pipe. Succubus, which is a form of vampire in this, which I think is quite cool. Vampiric Templar. There's Dracula, right? Feared group of Grail Knights struck down by the gods to become vampires. And now how to make your own creatures. So, pretty badass in terms of like building out all of the bestiary. You can see why it's so big. And then we get to a bitter harvest, which based on the art, I think is where you and some other player characters get in a fight with the members of the band Immortal. I think is what happens there. I haven't read the adventure, but I think it's a fight over the band Immortal. Maybe they're trying to release a new album or something. So this is the adventure. It walks you through some stuff that happens. It's set during the Baltic Crusades. It's inspired by like real history, but then they crank it up. They throw in some orcs. Look at these badasses. Katharina Steger. Fuck, she's so edgy. But let's see, what are the rewards for this adventure? Where do we get reward points? How do we reward our players for playing this thing? Aha, here we go. Good role-playing at the wedding. Right, that was the first one we saw. Good role-playing on the journey, befriending Andre. Each piece of information deduced without help. Right, so kind of old school style, like, did you do these things? And I imagine you would want to be flexible within those rules and add in more. Also, this heretic is getting fucking roasted. So that's cool. See you later, heretic. And then this is the appendix. So just travel trackers, wilderness encounters, random tables, and the character sheet. So that, my friends, that is our hour and a bit long stroll through Zweihander. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take us back to the character creation chapter, and I'm gonna take a short break because I'm gonna get some more vin. And when I return, we'll build a character. Does that sound like a fun plan? You wanna do that with me? All right, let's do that. Stick around. We will be right back.